or something.
In Game 2, Will Clark slid hard into former teammate to break up a double play. Larkin was diagnosed with having a mildly hyperextended knee, and he eventually left the game. Ernest Riles' pinch single broke a 2-2 tie in the 6th, and the Giants evened the series with a 4-2 win, beating the Reds for the 9th time in 12 games this year. The next day, Tom Browning allowed 3 runs in 6 innings as the Reds won 6-4. Randy Myers picked up his 23rd save as the Reds once again opened a 5.5-game lead. The finale would determine if the Reds would take 3 of 4 or split. Matt Williams was swinging for the latter.
Davis, deep center field, and it is gone. 3-run homer for Matt Williams.
Williams' 22nd homer gave the Giants a 4-0 lead in the first, but the Reds had plenty of time to come back, and they did. Joe Oliver smacked a 2-run double in the Reds' 5-run fourth, and Cincinnati held on for a 6-5 win.
Well, I felt that we could come back, and it seemed like that way with everybody on the bench. I didn't think he was going to be able to hold us tonight. We were getting some good swings, and we're playing good baseball right now. I think we're getting some confidence going, and we're playing hard.
The Reds took 3 of 4 to open a 6.5-game lead, but they're not planning to rest yet.
We need to get ourselves in a nice little hot streak. That's what we need. We haven't had a good hot streak in a long time, and now is a perfect time for it.
And they're buzzing here at the stadium. Tapani trying to pitch out of a jam. Checks Layrich, the runner at third. Here's the payoff pitch and a deep drive to right field. Way back. It's out of here. Home run for Kevin Moss.
And he lines it. Caught by Layrich. Layrich at third.
As Zokar hits it deep to right, it is gone.
There's a hitter.
Baseball fans in the Bronx finally have something to cheer about. What's developed is the emergence of the baby bombers, 25-year-old Kevin Moss, 25-year-old Oscar Azucar, and 26-year-old Jim Laritz, the new pride of the Yankees. 1990 has been an especially rotten year for the Yankees. They've wallowed in the last place for almost the entire season. But the sour icing on the cake was the virtual banishment from baseball of George Steinbrenner. But with the Yanks so far out of first, they're free to experiment with the youth movement.
It's been great to have the younger guys come up. It's been a big shot in the arm for us, and we've noticed a big difference in the percentage of winning and losing since they've been up here, so it's been a good thing for us.
The best of the baby bombers may be Kevin Moss, who's leaped into the national spotlight by hitting 13 homers in his first 110 at-bats. That surpassed Sam Horn as the quickest 13 homers in history.
Well, he's a very dangerous player, number one. He's big and strong, hits the ball a long way to all fields, really. He's got good power. He's got a very good eye at the plate. He's very disciplined, and he gets good pitches, and he knows what he's doing when he gets one.
He can hit them anywhere. I've seen him hit some long ones in other parks, too, so I don't think it matters where he plays. He's going to hit some home runs.
Moss has hit some tape measure blast and is enjoying his meteoric ride.
It's nice. You don't hit too many like that all the time, and so when you do, you like to kind of soak it in a little bit. But, heck, the next time you step to the plate, it's all over with, and you got to get back to business again. So try to enjoy it while I can and learn from it as well.
Oscar Azucar is batting around 290 since being called up in mid-July. He's known as a free swinger.
We always kid Oscar about he swings at everything. He had 7 walks last year and 540 at-bats. But the guy can hit. He only struck out 24 times in those 540 at-bats. So he puts the ball in play, and if you put the ball in play, good things are going to happen. So far he's been off to a real good start since he's been here.
Laritz has been doing good things himself. At the 3 positions he's been stationed.
It's tough to move around and play different positions, and I think he's pretty much settled now at third base for a while, but he's caught a couple of games and played in the outfield, and, he loves to hit. And it's such a nice, refreshing thing to see that the future of the Yankees looks like it's going to be real good.
It's time once again for the Power Stick Powerful Performance of the Week Award. This week's winner, the Braves' Dave Justice, who understudied Dale Murphy and now reads his own lines. Justice hit .448 for the week with 8 homers in 7 games. He's hit 15 homers on the season, and he's a strong candidate for Rookie of the Year.
Deep to right field, and Justice has got another home run. His second of the night.
go, Sil. One of the most verbose and arrogant sportscasters I have ever known.
First tell-all author when he divulged locker room secrets in the 1970 book Ball 4. These days, if a player hits a triple and throws in some dirt on his teammates, he's got a bestseller. These contemporary right field writers can thank Boughton, pitcher and pioneer. How'd the Seattle Pilots keep neat? Find out in the hot seat. Jim Boughton pitched for the Yanks in the early 60s. In 63, he went 21-7 with a 2.53 ERA. After baseball, he prospered as an inventor, businessman, and sportscaster. But he's best remembered for writing the book Ball 4, which has been re-released to celebrate its 20th anniversary.
The showers didn't work very well in the stadium. And a couple of nights, there wasn't any water pressure. And guys would sit around all hot and sweaty and filthy, crummy, dirty, waiting for the showers to start working. And finally, I jumped into the whirlpool bath and soaped up and everything. And I remember some of the guys were saying, Boughton, look at Boughton, he's taking a bath in the whirlpool. But I got fairly clean. Got out, got dressed, changed my clothes, and as it was starting to leave, guys were starting to go into the whirlpool. Some of the guys were saying, I'm second, I'm third, I'm fourth. And boy, I'd hate to be on the end of that line.
I remember when Ted Turner announced that I would be pitching against the Los Angeles Dodgers, there was a hue and cry from the Cincinnati Reds, the San Francisco Giants, and a couple of other teams. There was a 5-team pennant race, and here they were using a washed-up sportscaster against one of the teams that was fighting for the pennant. Then I pitched 3 scoreless, hitless innings, 3 perfect innings against the Dodgers, and I was rolling, and they knocked me out in the 5th inning and eventually went on to beat me. But after the game, the Dodgers were saying he didn't belong on the mound. It was like batting against Bozo the Clown. He had nothing but junk. And I was smiling to myself saying, you know, I was 39 years old. Of course I had nothing but junk. What did you expect? I mean, sure, nothing but junk. Anyway, after that game, Ted, in all fairness to the San Francisco Giants, started me against them out in San Francisco. And I'm happy to report that Bozo the Clown beat the Giants 4-1, and it was my first win in 8 years. The comeback also came at a point in my life when I was in the middle of separating from my wife and getting a divorce. And after that comeback was over, during the process of my comeback, I also met my current wife, and the turmoil of what was going on with my family, I needed to devote all of my time to that. One of the bad things about baseball is the travel. Well, for a marriage, or one of the good things about baseball for a marriage is also the travel, because you never really get that bored with each other. You never really have to confront each other because you're away half the time. 2 weeks home, 2 weeks on the road, 2 weeks home, 2 weeks on the road. You go down to spring training. You're home for the winter, but you're on this madcap schedule of speaking dinners and working out and that kind of thing. So. I think there are a lot of marriages that I call baseball marriages. They're together as long as the guys are playing baseball, but when the career is over and the guy is now home all the time, they don't really get along that well anymore. So it was only a marriage that could survive during a baseball season. Howard Cosell, one of the most verbose and arrogant sportscasters I have ever known. Howard, I tell you, I have 2 feelings about Howard. One is the early Howard Cosell, when he was not part of the establishment, when he was a local New York sportscaster. He was really good. He was a good reporter. He was tough. He was not afraid to say what needed to be said. However, unfortunately, later in his career, he became too chummy with the establishment. Personal friends with Bowie Kuhn, personal friends with Pete Rozelle, and then Howard, refused to criticize the sport or really question its basic values. His idea of criticism at that point was to get on some poor left tackle who wasn't hustling. And then the boxing thing. I mean, here he was hyping boxing for all of those years, and then when he decided that he would no longer be a boxing announcer, then he wanted to abolish boxing. He understood people. He always had the respect of his teammates, if not the fear and the respect of his teammates, because he might pick them up at any moment and give them an airplane spin in the locker room. Because he did enjoy making players throw up from time to time, whether it was during the game in the dugout. Jesus Alou was a particular target of his. He would go up to Jesus and threaten him with some gross gesture or something like that, and Jesus would invariably lose his lunch right there during a ball game. But am I surprised that he's manager of the California Angels? No, I'm not. I think that Doug loved baseball, and as I said, he was very smart. He always had the respect of the players. He knew how to manage guys. And if the players don't play for him, he'll make them throw up. I know he will.
Thanks a lot, Jim, for serving up those tasty tidbits.
This year has just been one of those years where we haven't been able to put it all together, and they just chalk it up to experience, I hope.
Man gets to first base safely, yet the home plate umpire steps out and says, "You're out." Why? I'll be back in a minute and let you know. Folks, you see, when the man bunted the ball, he stepped out of the batter's box onto the home plate area. That makes him automatically out when he bunts the ball. See you later.
Pennant Chase. Before the season started, many experts picked the California Angels and Baltimore Orioles to meet for the American League pennant. The Angels signed free agent Mark Langston, and the O's had last year's top rookie Greg Olson. Well, no one's perfect. Langston, Olson, or the experts. Baseball teams rely heavily on signs, and the Orioles are no exception. A good sign for the O's is when Greg Olson is on the mound. He had 26 of their 30 saves this year and was looking for number 27 in the first game against the Angels. But with the game tied in the 11th, Olson walked Chili Davis, and he didn't stop there.
He sends him. There's the pitch. Inside, misses ball 4, and Greg Olson has walked the first 2 men here in the 10th after getting in front of them. No balls and 2 strikes.
The Angels may be discovering a way to get a run without having to take the bats off the shoulders.
Frank Robinson brought in Kurt Schilling, who inherited a 3-0 count from Olson as he faced Johnny Ray. Schilling threw 1 pitch and walked Ray. The Oriole bullpen walked the bases loaded, and Kent Anderson made them pay for it.
Base hit right field. The Angels win it 2-1. The unlikeliest of heroes, Kent Anderson. He comes through to play Chili Davis with a base hit to right center.
In the second game, some unprofessional glove work put the Orioles in a hole. The Angels erupted for 6 runs in the 4th after Craig Worthington's error.
That puts the Orioles away by 8 runs, 9-1.
One error, and you can kiss that game goodbye. The Angels were thinking sweet. These girls were happily dancing the next day. They mustn't have been told about the curse of Mark Langston. The only game Langston has won at home this year was his no-hitter, and this was no no-hitter.
So Langston, after a good start in this ball game, has seen it crumble away. Langston goes 2 2/3 innings, gives up 6 hits, 6 runs so far. Both runners on base are his. Walks 3, strikes out 2, and another bad performance, to be honest.
I have resigned as manager of the Cardinals. I went over and talked to Mr. Koolman this morning. I had kind of made up my mind after the 3 games we played in San Francisco. I was totally embarrassed the way my ball club played up there, and I just think that we've underachieved. I don't think I've done a good job as a manager this year. I really just can't get the guys to play, and I think anybody could do a better job than me.
I think that Whitey Herzog realized the ball club needed to be shaken up. And I don't think that he thought that they were going to fire him. So I think for the good of the organization, he resigned.
You can debate why Whitey resigned, but there's no arguing the fact that the Cardinals lineup was performing woefully. On the day he stepped down, the one-time pride of St. Louis was 14 games under 500 and mired in last place in the National League East.
When you run one of the best managers in baseball out of the game, you're doing something wrong. Our problem is just flat. People didn't do the job, and I'll be the first one to step forward and say that, I'm not having the kind of year that I've had in the past, and it's been 25 people here that haven't done the job.
At times we've pitched, we haven't hit. At times we've hit, we haven't pitched. And then I'm not playing as good a defense as we're capable of playing.